Okay, today we're doing a little game preview between the Samursaints and the Cryogonals. This is a very tough matchup for the Samursaints. It is very tough, um, but there are ways to win. I think Weavile is super important in this game. Crobat is super important, and Choice Scarf Nido King is very, very important as well. Um, it's tough, but Choice Scarf Nido King can apply a lot of pressure in like the late game. Um, but it does need um, quite a lot of setup though. So the game plan I would say in this game is try and set up a late game for Weaver or Nidoking if it is Scarf. To try and like take out, see if you take out Landorus and Scyther, then Earth Power Nidoking just goes crazy. If you take out Menifee, then Ice Beam looks really, really strong. Things like that. If you just take out a certain Pokemon, then certain moves just kind of pop off and Nidoking can sweep late game. Um, I was looking at the team preview and I was hoping that you brought Meganium. Like Meganium kind of pops off with Terra Water. Like you can bait the Menifee into setting up and then hit it with a grass move, and as it goes, hit you with the +3 Ice Beam, you Terra Water, and then kill it. You can do the same thing with Scyther if he wants to stay and thinking he can set up on you, you just stay and hit it with a good move, get damage off. You can take the poison hit as you Terra Water from the Sneasler and kill it with Earthquake. Same with Landorus. If he wants to go for U-turn, you can take the hit, get some damage on something else. If he tries to stay in, you can hit it with the Terra Blast, Terra Water. So I really like Terra Water Meganium. It would have popped off, I think. I think like a Flame Orb defensive Milotic is like super important. You can eat hits from Scyther, Landorus, Sneasler, and then hit him back for good damage. I think if played perfectly and like with like really good prep, it's a winnable game, but it is tough. Okay, so rough start, and then okay. Okay, so much for the Nidoking thing. Oh fuck. Okay, that's rough. That's rough. That's rough. Okay, so much for the Nidoking endgame. Okay, so right there. So I was worried this would happen. I was worried this would happen. I think honestly, just going straight into Rillaboom would have been like the safest thing. I know you were trying to predict the electric move, but switching out into something else was pretty obvious. Like I don't think anyone would stay in there. Switching into Nidoking is like a high risk, low reward kind of move, I think. Even though Nidoking seems pretty good, if you are Scarf, which I believe is like the best set, you're not ready to be locked into a move yet, because then he can just make a free switch in, even if you get a big hit on something, and he'll get momentum. And you do not want to give this team momentum. The way you beat it is by keeping the momentum and the pressure on his team. You keeping the momentum and applying the pressure on his team. I would have gone to Rillaboom, because Rillaboom doesn't look amazing in this game. It doesn't. So just coming in, if he Volt switches, it's whatever. If he goes for the Psychic move, then you have all the momentum on your side. And if he does go to Volt switch after that, he's going to Volt switch first, so you can get a free hit on anything else to come in. It's probably going to be Scyther or Landorus, but you can work from there. I don't know if Landorus, if Rillaboom gets knockoff, I don't remember. I haven't even used Rillaboom before. But, or maybe you could U-turn yourself and get the momentum back on your side, but I think that was like a little, I see what you're trying to do, but I think that was a very high risk, low reward situation. Or decision, sorry. So you go into Weaver, you go for the Ice Spinner. You go to Iron Crown to take the low, no, okay, well, okay, that's rough, that's rough. That was two switch-ins that I think were very like high risk, low reward, like a little bit greedy. I think they were rough. They were rough switch-ins. Okay, so like let's go back a little bit. So you go for the Ice Spinner here. Okay, so Ice Spinner I think was fine. If you had knockoff, I would have clicked that, because if he switches into Ditto, you get a free knockoff on this, take off the Choice Scarf, if it is Choice Scarf, which is very scary against your team. If he goes into Landorus, then you knock off the item and you still probably kill with Ice Spinner after. If he goes into Scythe, you get rid of the Eviolite. If he goes into Manaphy to take the Ice move, getting a knockoff on that is pretty big. And if he goes back into Raichu, it would have killed. So I think knockoff was like really good. Ice Spin was still fine. Ice Spin was still fine. I don't think it was like a bad play or like terribly like wrong or anything. But I think knockoff would have been like pretty big. And I doubt he would have gone into Sneasler. So here, so you know what moves you have, and then you go into Iron Crown to take what I'm not sure what you're predicting him to go for. Like if you think he's going to go for a dark move, going into Milotic is still the best decision. If you're predicting for an ice move, going into Milotic is still the best decision. If you think he's going to go for a fighting move like low kick, I think Milotic is still the best decision, especially if you're like physically defensive, which you probably should be against this team. I think, yeah, I think going into Iron Crown was very, very risky. It was very risky. I think the last thing he's going to do is press an ice move against Weavile, because your switch-in's probably Milotic, who resists ice, and Weavile resists ice on its own. I don't think he's going to press an ice move, if that's what you're predicting. I think that was a little over prediction. It's like the same thing. It's like, unless you're Scarf, you don't even outspeed this anyway. And then you're probably just going to get one shot by the dark move. So it was a very, very, very high risk, low reward switching. Because unless you are Scarf, there's no point switching into Iron Crown. And if you are, then it will give you some momentum, but again, he's most likely going to click a dark move, predicting you to swap. Especially if you have low kick on your move pool. So he goes for the throat chop. Takes out that. So now you're in like a really bad spot. But you know that you can come in back into Weavile. An Ice Spinner looks pretty good now. Manaphy would be the only rough one. So looking at this game, Ice Spinner is very good damage on everything except for Manaphy. If he goes Manaphy, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because you don't have Manaphy to set up. I would probably go for Ice Spinner because you know it kills. Okay. Poison Jab. Poison Jab's a very... Okay, I would have clicked Poison Jab. So it would have done more damage than Ice Spinner. Would have taken this out, and yeah, nothing really resists except for Landorus, who does not want to switch into Weavile. So Poison Jab was completely free there. So going for Ice Shard, I think was like a little bit sort of like unnecessary, because if this thing Choice Scarf and Ice Shard doesn't kill, right? So you might as well just take the hit, whatever it goes for, and then kill it back with your Poison Jab, because if you Scarf, you know it's locked into the dark move, that's not going to do anything. So the only reason you would click Ice Shard if you're scared it's going to outspeed you. But even then, it doesn't kill, right? The Ice Shard doesn't kill, so you just could have clicked Poison Jab. And if he is Scarf, either way you're going to take the hit, right? Because Ice Shard isn't killing, but at least it would be dead right now. And even if he does swap, getting the Poison Jab damage is pretty good on everything. And Ice Shard's not going to do much. Ice Spinner as well. He could have gone for Ice Spinner. Just the Ice Spinner damage on anything is like pretty decent. So going for Ice Shard there, I think is better because you know Ice Shard's going to pick up the kill. So now here you should probably go Crobat. Good. Ooh, okay. Okay. That's rough. That's rough. Okay, so bring Crobat as your Steezler, switch in. Good. That's good. That's what I would have done. He went for Fling, and that did a lot of damage. But you're pretty free to just roost. You're very free to just roost. Or go for the Brave Bird and just try and kill this fucker. I don't know if you get a Psychic move, but going for that as well would have been good, just to nuke this thing. Steel Wing is like super spicy. I like that. I like bringing Steel Wing. But the problem is, it doesn't hit anything on this team super effective. So, even though Bring It is like spicy, I'm guessing you brought it for the Lycanroc. The Lycanroc's not here, so clicking Steel Wing there is probably like the worst thing you could have done, because even if it landed, it probably wouldn't even do half to this. But Brave Bird probably would have killed it. Zen Headbutt probably would have killed it if you get Zen Headbutt. I know you get extra sensory, I think. But I would have just tried to nuke this thing, or just roost, just heal up, because you know you can sit here and wall it forever unless you get like put to sleep or something. But I think so far there's been three big decisions that were very high risk and very low reward. Like going for Steel Wing was a super high risk play. Like you can risk, you can miss. You're not gonna do half the damage to this. But then there was almost no reward to it, because even if it does land, it's not gonna do very much damage. If he swaps, it's not gonna do damage to anything he swaps into really. So just like, there's been like three big high risk no reward plays. So he goes to Swords Dance. Skull is good. And then you get dropped by that. I want to say if you were physically defensive, you would have lived. I want to say if you were physically defensive, you would have lived. I think I'm gonna guess you were special. Maybe for like Delphox. Maybe you were scared of Delphox. Physically defensive, my low tick with like the Flame Orb was like really good in this game. You would have been able to eat hits from like everything. You would have had the Raichu and the Manaphy to worry about. But that's not... Even if you were specially defensive, they beat you anyway. Like you were in a 1v1 matchup with a Raichu and you had to swap out because you were going to die to a Thunderbolt or whatever. Manaphy can just set up on you and press Energy Ball. You're good against my low tick. But you have a lot of ways to still beat. So you're good against Delphox, you have a lot of ways to beat that still. You still have the Weavile, Choice Scarf, Nido King can beat it. There are other ways to beat it on your team, like the Terra, Meganium. So then you go into the Rillaboom, it drops the Diaclaw. And then Ice Shard picks this off. Okay, so in that situation, you always go to Weavile first. You always go to Weavile first because you have priority and you can outspeed. So if your Weavile kills the Sneasler, then you have Weavile here at 40% and you still have 100% Rillaboom. If you go into Rillaboom first, Rillaboom's going to die no matter what because it has the Unburden boost. Even if you're Scarf, maybe you got confused and didn't realize that the Unburden boost was off. But yeah. So if Weavile doesn't kill, you lose the game either way. If Weavile does kill, you still have Rillaboom alive. So you always go on to Rillaboom first. I mean, Weavile first, go for the Ice Shard. And then like right here, you could have gone back into Rillaboom. Okay, if Rillaboom was still alive, you would have eaten that hit. He would have swapped into probably Scyther or Landorus. You could have got a U-turn off. You would have had your Weavile in a really good position, faster than both. He probably would go Menifee. You could go for the dark move. Okay, then maybe that 2-shot's Menifee if he's offensive. Then you can take out Menifee. Then you're in another really good spot. He goes to Raichu again, and now you're in a spot where you can either stay and predict the Volt Switch or go into Rillaboom and eat the Alluring Voice of Volt Switch. If he does, then you probably just win the game. You can go for another U-turn or whatever. You can either take out this, or if he switches into Landorus or Scyther, you kind of just clean them up with the Ice move. And if you take out this thing, your Weavile kind of just wins. Or just even having damage on this will allow your Ice Shard to take it out. So I think, look like from that damage, you might have even been choice banned. But I think there were 4 big decisions that I thought maybe it looks like you panicked a little bit, or maybe you over-predicted a little bit. But there were 4 big decisions that were very high risk. But even if you got them right, there was no benefit to them. So the Nidoking one, this is one I understand the most. You were trying to go for the predict the electric move, get the momentum. However, this is if you are Choice Scarf and you were like a set that was really good for late game. Risking Nidoking to a Psychic move, which I'm guessing you were Scarf, because if you weren't, you would have just dropped to Psychic anyway. At which point you would have had to switch to Rillaboom, or the Iron Crown, which I would have just swapped into them anyway. Probably Rillaboom, right? Because Rillaboom would take the Psychic move that you would have had to switch out of if he did go for the electric move into Nidoking, and he would have taken the Thunderbolt fine. So it possibly could have gained you some momentum. But it's a big risk for like a Pokemon that's really good against his team. The Iron Crown thing, another Pokemon that, depending on the set, is like really strong against this team. Kind of just got nuked by Weavile because you switched it into a dark move. Where if you were predicting the Poison Jab, now I've seen the Poison Jab after, maybe that's what you're predicting. But him predicting you to swap, I think, was a fair play, and I think that, again, the risk was just too high. You could have just gone into Milotic, and it doesn't matter what he clicked into, you would have taken it, and you would have forced him back out, and you would have got a pretty good Scald on anything. Like, Milotic Scald is so good against everything, except for Menifee. Menifee can come in, Menifee can eat it, but I would have to assume if you're going to bring Milotic, you have a plan for Menifee. With your Milotic. And then the Rillaboom thing. Letting Rillaboom die to Sneasler when you could go into the Weavile Ice Shard first and keep the Rillaboom alive. I think there were 4 key players that were like the deciding factor in this game. If I had to give you like a tip going forward to like improve, I would say just like slow down, just really think about what you're doing, and just think like, is this play, if it does even work, is it actually going to like benefit me? And if it doesn't work, do I kind of just lose the game now? Because going for those risky decisions, you want to go for a risk. You want to try and position yourself in a spot where you can make the right decision, but it doesn't cost you if it goes wrong. So, for example, going into the Rillaboom again on turn 1 against the Raichu, the worst case scenario is he Volt Switches and it goes into, I don't know, Scyther, and then you can just deal with it from there. But the game's not over. The game's not over in any way just because he went for Volt Switch and went into Scyther against your Rillaboom. It's turn 2, the game's still fine. But you go into Nidoking. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, you press a Psychic and your Nidoking gets nuked. And what's the best thing that happened? You just eat a Volt Switch, or you eat a you eat the electric move. Both scenarios, you eat the electric move. Rillaboom does it, Nidoking does it. The worst case scenario, he goes into Scyther against the Rillaboom, you're fine. Nidoking gets nuked, bad. That really hurts your chances of winning. The Iron Crown one. Worst case scenario is he presses the Dark move and absolutely nukes you. Okay, but you switch into Milotic. Worst case scenario is he presses the Dark move and does like 40% to you. 30% if you're physically defensive, I don't know. Something like that. Worst case scenario is he tries to like double. Maybe go into Menifee and try to set up. If you're bringing Milotic, I assume you have like a plan for that. Like Haze or like Dragon Tail or something. But worst case scenario is Iron Crown gets absolutely nuked and you lose the Pokemon for nothing. Okay, the Crobat one. Worst case scenario is you miss the Steel Wing and he kills you. Okay, but clicking Steel Wing, the best thing that can happen is you hit Steel Wing, you do like 40-30% to it, and then you die anyway. So that was like a scenario where there was really no win. But you clicking Brave Bird means you would have probably killed the Sneasler and been in a pretty good spot. Or going for Roost. Worst case scenario is you Roost, he hits you with the Dire Claw. Maybe he puts you to sleep or paralyzes you, but then you just go from there. Okay. Going for the Brave Bird. Like, what's the worst case scenario if he goes for Brave Bird? If you go for Brave Bird, maybe he swaps into Landorus. Yeah, he eats the Brave Bird. And then you can go from there. Okay, the game's still on, it's not over, but you're going for Steel Wing. It was rough. Because there was no real win there. If you just wanted damage, then just going for Brave Bird would have been better. If you wanted to keep Crobat alive, then going for Roost would have been better. And then the Rillaboom one. So going into Rillaboom against the Sneasler, there was no winning there. Like maybe your Scarf, but he's already unburdened. There's no good scenario that can come out of that. Like worst case scenario is Rillaboom dies to the Dire Claw. Best case scenario is Rillaboom dies to the Dire Claw. There's only one outcome that can really happen there. But if you go into Weavile first, best case scenario is you kill it and now Rillaboom's still alive. Worst case scenario is you don't kill it and you lose the game because Sneasel will clean up both. But either way, that's going to happen. It all comes down to Weavile killing with Ice Shard. But if it's going to kill you, you might as well kill it with Rillaboom still alive. So when you're playing on your games, just make sure you think about the risk and reward, and make sure the risk isn't outweighing the reward when you make your decisions, and it should be good.